Okay, now I will move on to something which is very important for the course as well as your, especially for your term project. Okay, that is experimental data and model parameters. Yep. So you must have seen in many cases, people take some values and then they predict what will what is going to be the outcome. I've just mentioned the example of concrete mix design, right? So when the consultant told you that follow this ratios and follow these ratios, and eventually you will get the value of the strength equal to this. So that value must have been predicted from a model, from an equation. Okay. Other obvious examples are weather parameters. So you see weather forecasting being done on daily basis, right? So they are putting some parameters into their model, and the model is telling them what is going to happen next. Okay, and same thing happens with the stock markets. So all these are examples in which models are used to predict the outcome of the experiment. Okay, so how do we develop this model which can give us the outcome for later experiments? So for that, first of all, we conduct some experiments for establishing the relationships between variables. Okay, the variable is compressive strength of concrete and the ratios for cement and aggregates. Okay, so when I change the ratio of cement and aggregate as this much, what is the strength? Okay, so in this experimental program, you are measuring inputs as well as output. The thing you want to put into the model and the thing you want to get out of the model, you are measuring both things in the initial experimental program so that you know how one parameter is changing the other or how one parameter is affecting the other. Okay. Then you collect this data and you plot it so that you can see the relationships in front of you. Okay. So the two variables which can affect each other can be stress and strain of steel samples. So stress affects the strain, or it can be the speed and concentration of traffic flow. Okay, so the density or concentration of vehicles affects the speed of the vehicles. Okay, so you observe both things and then you plot them and then you see how they are affecting each other. Okay. Now, when you are plotting the data, when you plot the data on a graph, it is impossible that they will form an exact shape, any geometric shape, whether it's a straight line or a parabolic curve or a circular curve, any type of curve is impossible to have from a real experimental data. Why? Because of the errors. Okay, if two variables were the only ones which are affecting each other, okay, then you can have a straight line or a curve exactly as per the shape. Okay, so it will be a very straight line and all the points which you plot on the curve will be on that straight line and so on and so forth. But because of the errors, now the errors happen randomly, we don't know, sometimes we don't know their source, we cannot correct all of them, so still some errors will remain in the output of the experiment. So when you plot the data on a graph, it looks like a scatter plot, which you can see in the figure on the slide. Okay, so we have plotted the data by observing X and Y for an experiment. Again, that experiment can be stress and strain of steel or traffic flow and concentration. Oh, sorry, traffic speed and concentration. But no matter what type of data it is, it will never give you an exact geometric figure. You can see it in the slide here. Okay, so it will always look like this, and this sort of a data is known as scatter plot or a scatter diagram. Okay, where the points are just plotted and that's it. Now, when you want to prepare a model, an equation which can show the relationship between x and y, then you will go through three steps. The first step is model postulation. The second step is model calibration, and third step is goodness of fit. Okay. Model postulation means discerning what type of relationship is there between the two variables. Is it a linear relationship? Is it an exponential relationship? Is it a logarithmic relationship? Or is it a relationship of a higher degree, for example, second degree or third degree? Okay, so between x and y, for example, you can have this equation or maybe this one as well. So what type of equation will best represent the relationship between x and y? That is what we call as model postulation. Okay, in this case, you can do trial and error. You can do, you can use your experience. You can take help from other people who have worked in this field and so on to know what type of relationship there could be. Then model calibration. Okay, model calibration means whatever model you have decided, you will calculate the parameters of the model. For example, if you say the model is a linear model, a straight line model, then we know the equation of the straight line, y equals to mx plus b. So I know y. Y is, let's say, speed. I know x, the parameter which I'm going to put into the model, that is, let's say, concentration or density. What is m and b? This is what I have to find out. Okay, this is what I have to find out. So that is what we call as model calibration. If you look at the second degree model, then the terms will increase. Okay, you have then m plus d, c plus dx plus ex squared. So again, y and x are known, but then I have to calculate c, d, and e. So as you keep on increasing the degree of the model, the number of model parameters will increase. So finding out the values of a, b, c, d, and e, obviously you have to find out some of them depending upon the type of model. So finding out the value of these parameters is known as model calibration. Model calibration. First of all, decide what type of model will apply. Then for that model, find out the parameters. The third thing is goodness of fit. Goodness of fit means now you try to find out the accuracy of the model. Okay, so I have an equation between x and y, and I have the actual results. How close is the accuracy between the model values and the actual results? So you calculated the weather forecast for tomorrow, and then when the next day came, you measured the actual temperature. So what is the difference between the actual temperature and the one which you predicted by the model? This is what we call as, in general terms, very lay terms, very crude terms, this is what we mean by goodness of fit. Establishing the accuracy and the effectiveness of the model. Okay, this is goodness of fit. So whenever you are developing a model between two parameters or for any experiment, you have to pass through these three stages. What type of model you have, calibrate the model, and then find out its accuracy and effectiveness. Okay. To calibrate the model, we use a method which is known as method of least squares. Least squares. Okay, I'll show it to you in the coming slides what do we mean, but the name of the method is least squares. The method of least square will give you an equation for the best fit line for your scatter plot. Remember, between x and y, I have a scatter plot. Okay, what would be the best fit line for this scatter plot? Again, all points will not pass through this line, but what is the next best thing which we can have? Okay, the best thing which could have was a line which joins all the points of the experiments. That is not possible. So what is the next best line I can have? That is the best fit line. And to find out that, we use a method which is known as least square method. So the method of least square method will help you in finding out an equation which is the best fit equation, and that equation will give the best fit line. So it will be a line like this. Okay, so it's not connecting all the points, but at least it is passing through some of the points, and its distance to the remaining points is not so much. Okay, so usually x, which is plotted on the x-axis, is the independent variable. We call it the independent or explanatory variable, input, the thing which you are putting in the model. Okay, and the y is the dependent variable or explained variable, the thing which you are getting out of the model. Okay, so for example, I put stress of steel and I get the strain of steel. So stress is x, independent variable or explanatory variable, and y is the explained variable or dependent variable, because y is dependent upon x. So this strain in this case will be the dependent or explained variable. Okay, so the output y explained or dependent, and input, which is x, is independent or explanatory variable. Okay. I think, yeah, I've covered this. Okay, moving on. Now we will discuss how we can find out different parameters for different types of models. Okay, for model postulation, as I said, you need some experience. You need to do some trial and error, and you will see which model is the most accurate model. Okay, so model postulation is not something which I can teach you, okay, or which we can cover in a class. It depends upon your experience, and also some trial and error is used. Okay, equation of a line, we know that, right? We have used it in the topic of elasticity. We were using it. Okay, and you guys have, there was a question in the exam that you were required to calculate the parameters of equation of a straight line, right? Now in that case, our assumption was that I gave you some points and I told you find out m and b, right? Slope and intercept. My assumption was that all the points are on that straight line. But what should I do if I'm trying to find the best fit line? Okay, so in that case, I'm trying to find the equation of this line. But the points which I have are these points. Okay, so they are not in a straight line. How can I use these points to find out the parameter of this equation? So if I have a line and I give you 2 points on the same line, finding out the slope is not a problem, right? Okay, similarly, you extend this line towards the y-axis, you will find out the y-intercept, no problem. Okay, so provided that all the points are on the line, then finding out the model parameter is not a problem. But if you are trying to plot a best fit line, then the points are not on the line. So if I take, for example, the slope between these 2 points, it will be different than these 2 points. Okay, or these 2 points, or these 2 points. Okay, so what if I have some random results from an experiment, and I'm trying to find out, or I'm trying to put a best fit line on the result of those experiments? What should I do then? How do I find out the value of A and B? Okay, A is the intercept, B is a slope. Okay, how should I do that? Now, I told you that for calculating the model, for calibrating the model, we use a method which is known as method of least squares. So square of what? This is the least squares. Okay, y is the actual result and y cap is the result from the model. Okay, so method of least squares tries to minimize this difference. Okay, in the method of least squares, those values of x, those values of A and B will be selected, which give the least value of this summation. Okay, so we are trying to find out the values of A and B, which can give us the least value of this summation. Okay, so they have already, I don't have to you know what we normally do. I will tell you the procedure, but then I will just directly use the equations. What they do is instead of y cap, they will put the value of the equation itself here. Y cap equals to this, right? Y cap is the result of the equation, right? So y cap equals to a plus bx. So instead of y cap, you can use a plus bx. Then you partially differentiate the value of s with regards to a and then with regards to b, and each time you put it equal to 0. You put it equal to 0. Okay, they will show it to you in one of the coming slides as well. But this is a procedure which they do to find out the values of x, a and b, what they do, they will take sum of squares. In the sum of squares, they will replace the value of y cap with the equation itself. Okay. Then for this summation, they will take partial differentiation with respect to a, put it equal to 0, because least value of s will be what? 0, right? And then they will take partial differentiation with respect to b and again put it equal to 0. Okay, so you will have an equation in terms of x, you will have an equation in terms of a, and you will have an equation in terms of b. This is how they will find out the value of a and b. But we don't have to do it for each one of them. Actually, finding out the value of a is very simple. Okay, first of all, the value of b can be found like this. How did we get it? How did we get this equation? Like I said, replace y cap with a plus bx, then do the partial differentiation with respect to a and put it equal to 0. You will get the equation for b. Okay, now in this equation you can see I'm using x and y, which are the experimental values. Okay, the x is the independent variable, y is a dependent variable. Okay, the simple values you have. Then we have x bar and y bar. So x bar is the mean of the input variable, y bar is the mean of the output variable from the experiment. Okay, so all of these are experimental values. Okay, so you calculate this ratio, you'll get the value of b. Okay, then if this equation is true, then if you put the value of x bar here, you should be getting the value of y bar, right? If this equation is true, this equation is giving me the results of the experiment accurately, perfectly, then y bar should be equal to a plus b into x bar. So I already know the value of b, I already know the value of y bar, I already know the value of x bar from the experiments. So I can now use this equation to find out the value of a. So a equals to, you can see this one. Okay, so what they have done, y bar equals to a plus bx bar. Okay, again, assuming that this equation is now perfectly accurate. So you know y bar, x bar, and b. You take a on one side, everything else on the other side, and you get the value of a. So if you are trying to find out, or if you have postulated that between two variables x and y there's a linear equation, then you can find out the parameters of the linear equation using this method. Okay, this is the method of least squares. Okay, because it started from here. Okay, let us apply this method to this example. We have traffic speed and concentration. We are trying to develop an equation in which speed equals to a plus b into concentration. Okay, so u is the speed and k is the concentration. Now tell me, u and k, we are trying to develop this equation. So u is the output and k is the input. Which one of them is explanatory variable, independent variable, u or k? Tell me, which variable is explanatory or independent variable? Tell me. Explanatory, independent means the same thing. U or k? Any guess? Take a guess. No problem.
U.
U is dependent variable.
K it will be the input.
K will be the input. Okay, so input is the independent variable. Input is always the independent variable. Explanatory variable. K is explaining the value of u. Okay, if you want to remember it like this. K, because you have to put k in the equation to get u. So u is dependent upon k and k is independent. Okay, or k is explaining the value of u because k goes into the equation of u. Okay, so k is independent or explanatory. U is explained or dependent variable. Okay, so the output is always dependent upon input. The output is always explained by the input. So u is explained or dependent and k is explanatory or independent. Okay, So they performed an experiment. They found some values for u and k. Now they want us to calculate a and b for this equation. Okay. So first of all, I need the value of x bar and y bar, meaning average speed and average concentration. So give me the average of u and average of k. Go ahead. What is the average value of u and what is the average value of k? Yes.
Doctor, average of U is 38.
30.
38.
38. Okay. And k?
35.
35.
Yep.
Okay. Now I will calculate b using these values. Okay. So the equation of b is this one. Okay. So I need to do these summations. Okay. Okay. I think it would be best if I put a table here. U, K, and U, K. Okay. 10, 20. Um, 70. And then I need x minus x bar and y minus y bar and x minus x bar square. Okay. X minus, so x is k. Okay. So I will do k minus, what was the average? 35. Okay. And then I need k minus 35 square as well. need u minus 38. Okay, go ahead. Give me the values. This is minus 25. Then I have
minus 15 plus 1
1
4
and 35. Okay, you calculate the square. I think I can take care of this. So 12, and I have 7, then I have 2, then I have minus 8, and then I have 13. Okay, the square, what's the square of 25?
625
625. 15?
225
4 is 16, and 35 is?
1225
1, 2, 5. Okay, so B equals, okay, I need to multiply them. I need to multiply the linear terms. Insert minus 35. Okay, so minus 25 into 12. How much is it?
925 minus 925
925. Okay.
minus negative.
Yeah, okay. And then 7 into 15 minus 15.
8 minus 820
2. 8 4s are 32. 13 35.
455
455. Okay, what's the summation here? I need summation of the last column and the square column.
okay 625 225 2092
22092. Okay, then the last column. How much is it?
minus 1320
Okay, what is the value of B then? 11320 divided by 22092. It will be negative.
Doctor, I guess this is not 22092 2092
How much is it then?
minus 0.63
What's the problem?
The summation is not 22092. It's not 22,000. It's 2,000.
2092.
Yep.
With 2092, you are getting this minus 160. Value B is correct or not?
Yeah.
Correct. It's
Yeah.
correct. Okay. Okay. Now for A equals. It was. Yeah. Y bar minus B X bar. Y bar is the output. Average of the output, and X bar is the average of the input. Output is U, input is K. So this one, okay, so Y bar is 38 minus B. Now I know the value of B. Okay, so 0.63 into the average of the input, which is 35. How much? How much is? $38 is the average of the U values, which are the output of the model, and the other one is the average of the input value. 35 is the average of the input values, which are the K values, concentration.
60.05.
60.05. Okay, so the final equation, which was, if you come here, the final equation is A plus BK. Now B is negative, so minus 0.63 into K, and A is 60.05, so 60.05 and this. Some of you may already know it, but for the sake of the class, I will also tell you how you can do this using Excel. Okay, later on we will see some advanced softwares as well. Okay, inshallah. Not softwares, one software. Okay, I don't know many, but I will show you using Excel. Later on, I will show you using another software as well. But I think you guys have already used MATLAB as well, right? You know MATLAB, all of you, right or no?
Better than Excel, doctor.
Did you use MATLAB in finite element or not?
We use it in first semester with Dr. Samih. I don't remember which. But in finite element we used Excel.
Ah, okay. Yeah. For matrix analysis, you use finite element for matrix analysis.
Yeah, we used Excel. For the numerical, we used MATLAB.
Okay. So if you know MATLAB or Minitab or Statistica or SPSS, okay, there are so many softwares. Any software will give you this basic, basic calculation. Okay, so these are the values of U and K. Okay, now if I want a linear equation, first of all, there are some limitations to the use of Excel for this sort of a work. Okay, the first limitation is that it will work only for two variables, one input, one output. Okay, in many cases you will have one output and many inputs. For example, design of concrete. Design of concrete is not taken by, or the strength of concrete is not calculated by one input variables. It requires many input variables. Okay, but for the simple case of one input, one output, you can use Excel as well. So what should I do? You come here and you put all the values in two columns. Then you select the two columns and you go insert. Okay, and then you go for a chart. Okay, recommended chart. I don't know what happened here. So you can see, you will see the option of scatter plot here. Where is it? This one, XY scatter. Okay, so it's the option for XY scatter. You select that option. I think there's a problem in copying the value. I don't think it is copying it as number. Okay, let me try again. UK. And 36, 39, 70. Okay, so I think the copied values were not read correctly by the software. Okay, so you go to recommended chart, or you can directly select the chart type from here for scatter. So you go for a scatter plot. Okay, make sure the plot is between U and K, and K is on the x-axis and U is on the y-axis. For the time being, it is taking reverse. It is taking K on the y-axis. Okay, so in order to reverse a chart, I'll go to select data. Okay, I remove the chart from now, then I will add. It is asking for series name. You can put the name yourself. It's asking for the X values. X is my K. Okay, so I'll select the K column. And Y is the U. I'll select the U column. Okay, I click OK. Okay, so now this is my scatter plot. Okay, and now I've selected the axis correctly. Okay, now I will not show you many different things. Okay, I'm just interested in showing you how to get the best fit, the linear equation for these two variables. Okay, so you click on the plus sign, then it will show you the option for trend line. Okay, so when you select this option, it will show you the best fit line. Okay, now if you go in the options of this trend line, it will ask you what type of a trend line you want: linear, exponential, linear forecast, true moving average. Other options include, second degree equation, third degree equation, but it should always be between one output, one input. Okay, it cannot be more than one input. Okay, for the time being, we need linear, right? So we go for linear. Okay, so you can see a line here, but where is the equation? For equation, you go to more options. Okay, now you come here, you will see display equation on the chart, and this is a. Okay, so B is still negative, and A is positive. Okay, and the values are not exactly what we have calculated. Okay, because Excel normally uses an advanced method.
Maybe I have mistake, doctor.
Sorry.
Maybe I had a mistake because I was calculating in my phone.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, maybe you have a mistake. Yeah, because these are the values from the book. These are values from the book. So maybe there was a mistake. You need to recheck it. Okay, but these are values from the book, and they are matching with the values from Excel. Okay, this is almost 53 in the book, and this is 0.43. So they are matching with the book. So I think you need to recheck your calculations maybe. Okay. Most of the calculations are very, very simple, but maybe in addition or subtracting, some of the values are negative. So maybe there you may have made a mistake. But now you can see how we can calculate the equation, linear equation using Excel. In the same manner, you can change the type of equation: logarithmic, polynomial, exponential, and it will show you the equation for that. Okay, so this is how you can use Excel doing that. Okay, so model calibration, we saw model calibration for a very simple linear model. Okay, now how should I know that my model is is giving me a good an accurate answer? Okay, how do I check the accuracy of my model? For that, we use two parameters. One of them is known as correlation, and the other one is known as coefficient of determination. You can see both the parameters on the slide here. R square is known as coefficient of determination and R is known as correlation. Okay, so the goodness of fit for a regression line increases if the regression line is explaining most of the variation in the data. Okay, meaning variation means what? When the data is going up and down, right? The trend of the data. So if majority of the trend of the data is explained by the model, then it will have a high goodness of fit, or it will have a high coefficient of determination. The value of coefficient of determination goes from 0 to 1. Okay, values above 0.3 are considered good. If you have a coefficient of determination more than 0.3, it is considered good. If the value is less than that, then that means the model cannot capture the trend of the data. So capturing the trend of the data is important. Okay, even if the values are not matching point by point, like I showed you in the previous in the Excel sheet, even when the best fit line is plotted, the best fit line is not joining all the points. See here, this is the best fit line. Is it joining all the points? No. Okay, but it is following the same trend at the points. Okay, so following the trend is important. Matching all the points is not possible. Okay, like I said, there are some unexplained errors in the equation, so it is not possible. Okay. So if you have coefficient of determination, you take the square root of coefficient of determination, it will be called as correlation. Correlation. So correlation is simply how a variation in one parameter will affect the other parameter. This is correlation. Okay. So how to calculate the coefficient of determination and how to calculate the correlation is given here. Okay. So for coefficient, so you need the same, x, y parameters. Okay, you're using the same x, y parameters. Okay, for correlation, so correlation is between the x and y. Okay, correlation is mainly calculated between two parameters which are part of the experiment. Coefficient of determination is calculated between the experimental results and the result of the equation. The experimental results and the result of the equation. Okay, so for calculating coefficient of determination, you need y cap. What is y cap? What is y cap? Can someone explain me y cap, y bar, and y? What is y cap? Or let me explain with let me start with the easier one. What is y bar?
Average y, doctor.
Average value. Okay, and what is y?
The value, the single value, is different from each point.
Single value. What is y cap?
Maybe the y that we use in the formula.
Y that comes out of the formula.
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever you put the value of k, the equation is giving you a value of u, then that is the y cap. Okay, so y cap is the estimated value, predicted value from the equation. Y is the actual value of the equation, actual value of the parameter, and y bar is the average value. Okay, so you can see here TSS and ESS. TSS stands for total sum of squares. TSS stands for total sum of squares. ESS stands for error sum of squares. ESS, error sum of squares. TSS, total sum of squares. Okay, so you need these things to calculate the coefficient of determination. Now, if you come towards correlation, then you see x and y. We know x and y, right? X is the value which you are inputting, the input parameter. In previous case, it was the k value, and y is the output parameter, which is the u value. So you only need x and y here. Okay, and then you have capital N here. What is capital N? Capital N is the number of sets of values you have. So in the previous example, how many sets of values we had? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sets. Okay, so N will become, capital N will become 5. Okay. Now you can use this equation to calculate if there's a correlation between u and k. Okay, if there's a correlation between u and k, and you can calculate the coefficient of determination using this equation. But since we were talking about the Excel, let me show you how we can calculate these things using Excel. Okay, correlation for using Excel sheet is very easy. Go to any cell, then the function is okay. The function for finding out correlation in Excel is CRREL, Corel. Okay, Corel. The short form of correlation. So you write Corel and then you put you start the bracket. You select the first parameter values. Okay, order is not important. You can select U or K first, whatever you want. Okay, select the first parameter values, put a comma, then select the second parameter value and close bracket. Okay, so you can see the correlation here. Having a value close to -1 means a strong correlation but negative. Okay, so change in increase in one parameter decreases the other parameter. Okay, but if the value is closer to -1, that means it's strong. The correlation is strong. It's negative but strong. Okay, and instead of 0.93, if you had got instead of minus 0.93, if you had got 0.93, then that would have meant a strong correlation but positive. So when you increase one variable, it increases the other variable as well. Okay, so minus plus indicating the type of relationship, and the values shows the strength of the relationship. Negative close to -1 is strong, positive close to 1 is strong. Okay, and close to 0 is very weak. Okay, there are some values given. Okay, in some research papers. Okay. You can search yourself, no problem. Now, coefficient of determination. Come to the graph. You have already plotted the line. You select the line. Okay, select the line which you have plotted, and then it will open this. Or you can go to the plus sign, trend line, go here on the arrow and go for more option. It will show you the option. Okay, then on the in the options at the bottom, you see display equation of chart. We have already done that. Display R squared value on chart. So R squared is basically the coefficient of determination. So if I click this, you see the coefficient of determination is here. And it's very, very high. 0.88 is very, very high. Okay, like I said, 0.3 and more is considered sufficient. Okay, so for a model to be sufficiently accurate or to be acceptable, R squared should be 0.3 or more. In this case, it is way higher than 0.3. So no problem. Okay, so you can use the equation, or you can use the Excel or any other software. The one which we have done up till now was known as linear regression. Simple linear regression. In simple linear regression, you have only one x value. Okay, or only one x parameter. Okay. Then the advanced form of that is multiple linear regression. For multiple linear regression, Excel won't work. With Excel, you can just calculate correlation between any two variables, but other than that, it will not work. Okay, so multiple linear regression, you can see y is predicted using more than one inputs. So x1, x2, x3, and so on are different input parameters. So for example, I ask you to calculate the strength of concrete. So you may ask me about water cement ratio. That will be x1. You may ask me about the size of the aggregates. That will be x2. You may ask me about the ratio of aggregates, x3. You may ask me about the weather condition, the temperature. That will be x4. Okay, so each x value is a different parameter which will help you to predict the value of y. So if you have more than one inputs in an equation, we call it multiple linear regression. If you have only one input, then we call it simple linear regression. Okay, so simple means one input, multiple means multiple inputs. Okay, so two or more independent variables. All x are what? Independent variables, explanatory variables. Okay, so for developing the multiple linear regression, you should have more than one independent variables, and whenever you perform the experiment, in each experiment you will observe y and all the x values. Okay, so if your experiment was to find out the speed of the vehicles, and your independent variables were density, width of the lane, and let's say a gradient, then each time you observe speed, you will observe these three things as well. Okay. Yeah, other conditions are independent variables. X values should not have a high correlation between themselves. So x1 should not be highly correlated with x2, and x2 should not be highly correlated with other x's and so on. Okay, and all x values individually should have high correlation with y. So x1 should have high correlation with y, x2 should have high correlation with y, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in multiple linear regression, to develop the model, these are the conditions you should meet. More than one independent variable. In all the experiments, you must have observed the dependent and all the independent variables. Independent variables must not be correlated or highly correlated with each other, and there must be a high correlation between the dependent and each of the independent variables. So they should not be correlated with one another, but all of them should be correlated with y. Okay. Another type of regression can be direct nonlinear. Okay. Then the equation will be nonlinear. Instead of x, you will have x squares and so on, these terms. Okay. So there are different ways in which we can develop nonlinear models. We will come back to it later on. Okay. But keep in mind, you can have simple linear regression, multiple linear regression, or you can have non-linear regression. Okay. Okay. So here they are asking us to calculate the model parameters when y equals to a plus bx plus cx squared. So it's a non-linear equation. Okay, and they are calling it direct non-linear because x is directly put as a square in the equation. Okay, there are other ways to do it as well. Like I said, I will come back to it. Okay, but let us see how we can calculate the parameters of our direct non-linear equation. Okay. Again, the method which we are going to use is least squares, the method of least squares. Okay, so I want a value of a, b, and c. My y values are these, my x values are these. Okay, I am trying to minimize s. What is s? Y minus y cap square, summation of y minus y cap square. Okay, so instead of y cap, I will put this equation like I showed you for simple regression, simple linear regression. So instead of y cap, you put this equation. So you will have y minus all these things. Okay, I know x. I don't know a, b, and c. So what will I do? I will partially differentiate s with respect to a, then with respect to b, then with respect to c. Okay, and then I will put it equal to 0. Okay, so when you do the partial differentiation with respect to a, you will get this equation. When you do the partial difference and put it equal to 0, you will get this equation. When you do the partial differentiation with respect to b, you will get this equation, and you put it equal to 0, you will get this equation. Okay, and so on and so forth. So each time you do the partial differentiation of this equation, put it equal to 0. Okay, so you will be getting these equations. So now we have 3 equations and 3 unknowns. We have 3 equations and 3 unknowns. Okay, here you can see they have even put the values as well. They have put the values as well. So summation of y equals to this. Okay, so I think this one is a plus sign then. Yeah, this is a plus sign. So there's a mistake here. You can correct it in the slides you have. I will put it here. So this is a plus sign basically. Okay, it's not equal to. Equal to doesn't make sense as well. Okay, so summation of y means summation of all these values, which is 220. So 220 equals to a into n. What is n? Number of sets. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4a plus summation b into summation of x. So you do the summation of x. Okay, so 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, it will give you 16. Oh, sorry, 14. So 14b plus c into summation of x square. So 2 square plus 3 square plus 4 square plus 5 square, 54. So this is that. Okay, and then 865 equals to this, 3645 equals to this. Now, can you solve these 3 equations and give me the values of a, b, and c? Go ahead. So if you are wondering what we will do next time, if you have a non-linear equation, you start from there. You start from here. You don't have to do partial differentiation every time. Okay, if the form of the equation is this, then doing partial differentiation, putting them equal to 0 will always give you this answer. Okay, so you can directly use these equations whenever you are calculating A, B, and C. Okay, so solve these equations, give me the values for A, B, and C. Just have to simultaneously solve these three equations. Three variables, three equations, A, B, and C.
A equals 16.
Okay, that's very quick. Or I can write it here, no problem. A equals 16, okay.
B equal 1.5.
All of them are positive?
Yeah. C
Okay.
equal 2.5.
2.5. Okay, so then the equation will be y equals 16 plus 1.5 x plus 2.5 x squared. Okay, like I said, whenever you have a second degree equation between two variables, y and x, or a and b, we just use these equations directly. Okay, to calculate the values of a, b, and c. This is direct non-linear relationship. Direct non-linear relationship. Okay. Then another method of calculating non-linear relationship is by applying transformation, which you can see over here. Okay, so you see I have a variable y which has a relationship with x, which is a power relationship, a into x to the power b. So it's a non-linear relationship, right? It's a non-linear relationship. Okay, how can I convert this non-linear into linear relationship? Okay, for that you take the natural log on both sides. So if you take the natural log on the left hand side, it will become log of y. If you take the natural log on the right hand side, then it will become log of a plus b log of x. Okay, so now you can, when you are plotting the data, when you are plotting the data, you will consider this as your y. Okay, so instead of plotting y, you will plot what? Log of y. So log of y is what? Transformed form of y. Okay, and the other side of the equation. Now what is my y-intercept? Log of a. Log of a, not a. Log of a. Okay, b is b, and what is my x value? What am I plotting on the x-axis? Not x, log of x. Okay, so the actual relationship for this, a non-linear relationship. Okay, I transform the variables so that I am plotting the transformed version of the variables, but the line is a linear, but the line becomes linear. Okay, so now I can apply the concept of simple linear regression on this line without any problem. Okay, you will calculate log of a like you were calculating a for simple linear regression, and you will calculate b in the same manner. Okay, the only difference is instead of y and x, now you will take log of y and log of x. Okay, so for example, we have again the same, not the same, I think values are different. They are not the same value, right? Values are different, but the equation is still between speed and concentration, or speed and density. Okay, so the actual relationship is this: u equals uf exponential minus k upon km. This is a relationship. It's an exponential relationship. Okay, we have to find out the model parameters using the by transforming it into simple linear regression. Okay, so we have a non-linear relationship. We will transform it into simple linear relationship. Okay, how? So we have exponential. To remove the exponential, you take we have a power of the exponential. To remove that power, again we will take the log on both sides. Okay, so when you take the log on the left hand side, it will become log of u, simple. Okay, if you take the log on the right hand side, it will become log of uf, simple. Okay, minus, and then log and exponential will cancel out. Log and exponential will cancel out. Okay, so it will become k upon km. Okay, minus k upon km, because this was negative. Okay, now so my y becomes log of u, my a becomes log of uf, and my b becomes minus 1 upon km. My b becomes minus 1 upon km. Okay, now if you calculate the values of a and b like you did for simple linear regression, in the same manner like we did calculate the values of a and b for simple linear regression, we can do it here as well. Okay, but keep in mind your y is not u, log of u, and your x is k. There is no problem. Okay, so you can calculate the values of a and b like we did in the previous example in the same manner. Okay, so now they have calculated the value of a as 4. Or you can calculate log of u and log plot it with respect to k, and you can take the values of a and b from Excel as well. Okay, but in Excel when you are plotting, make sure that one column is for log of u, not u. Okay, Excel will not do the transformation for you. You have to do the transformation yourself. So one column will be log of u, the other column will be k, and the Excel can give you the values of a and b. Now we know that a means log of uf and b means minus 1 upon km. Okay, so if a equals to 4.01, so I will put log of uf equals to 4.01. Okay, and b equals to minus 0.01, so I will put minus 0.01 equals to minus 1 upon km, which is the b value, right? The b value. Okay, so this will be put equal to minus 0.01, the value of b, and this will be put equal to 4.01, the value of a. This whole thing. Okay, now remember the actual equation was this. So if I give you the value of uf and km, you can now write the actual equation. Okay, so log of uf equals to 4.01. So you take the exponential on both sides. So log will be removed and the exponential will come on this side. So uf becomes 55 miles per hour. Okay, and then in this case it is very simple. Okay, minus sign will cancel out, and km will be multiplied by it will be 1 upon 0.01. km will be equals to 1 upon 101. So it will be 100 vehicles per mile. Okay, so km and uf are found now. So instead of writing the simple linear regression, now you can write the actual equation. Okay, the actual equation was u equals to uf exponential of minus k upon km. So uf is 55 miles per hour, km is 100 vehicles per mile. Okay, so this becomes the actual equation of u without any transformation. Okay, now let me recap what we did. We were given a non-linear relationship. We converted it or transformed it into a linear relationship. Okay, so on one side we took the log, and taking the log it will not work every time. Okay, you have to use your brains. What should I do with the equation so that the final value is a linear relationship? Okay, so you transform the variables so that you are only left with finding out a and b. This is our aim. Transform the equation in such a manner that you have one term on the left hand side and two terms on the right hand side. Okay, so you will find out for the two terms on the right hand side, you will find out the coefficient. That's it. Okay, so what should I do with the equation? So that I have one term on the left hand side, the other two terms on the right hand side, and I will find out the parameters of the equation on the right hand side. Okay, this is your aim then. So what should I do? Should I take log? Should I take exponential? What? Okay, should I take differentiation? What? So this is up to you, but log may work, may not work. Okay, in this case it works because we have exponential. Okay, so what we did, first of all, we transformed the equation to have one term on left hand side, two terms on the right hand side, and then for these two terms we found out the parameters. Okay, these parameters, the constant is a, the other parameter which was multiplying with k was b. So you found a and b like we did for simple linear regression. Then we transformed them back to find out the values of the actual parameters. The actual parameters were uf and km. Okay, so we put the values of a and b equal to their transformed versions, and you get the values of actual parameters required in the equation. And then you put these values in the actual equation, you get the and you have calibrated the model then. Okay, so if you plot the transformed version, you will be plotting this equation. Okay, or you will be plotting this equation. If you plot the transformed version, then on the y-axis you will have log of u. On the x-axis you will have k. Okay, but if you plot the actual equation, then on the y-axis you will have u, and on the x-axis you will have k. Okay, so you have to keep the difference in mind between the transformed and the actual or the simple regression. Okay, how do you select the explanatory variables? Variables which will go as input into the equation. How do you select those variables? For example, if I ask you to predict the temperature, you may assume that the temperature is affected by wind speed, is affected by time of the day, it is affected by geographical location, it is affected by this and this and this. You may tell me 100 things which may affect temperature. Out of these 100 things, how do I decide which variables should go in the equation? Okay, so there are some conditions. Okay, these are the conditions, and these conditions are for only linear regression. Okay, so we are coming back to the discussion of linear regression. Okay, so the parameters which you are selecting for linear regression must be linearly related to dependent variable. Okay, this is very simple because we are assuming that the model is linear, so their relationship with the independent variable must be linear. Okay, the relationship between dependent and independent must be linear. Okay, this is our first assumption. It makes sense, right? Because we are restricting ourselves to a linear model. Okay, later on you may find that linear model doesn't work and you throw it away and you go for non-linear models. Okay, it may happen. Okay, but you start from linear model. Okay, must be highly correlated with the dependent variable. I've already discussed this. All x values must be highly correlated with y value. Must not be highly correlated between themselves. So if you have x1, x2, x3, x4, they should not be interrelated with each other. X must not be interrelated with each other. And must lend themselves to relatively easy projection. The projection of these independent variables must be easier. Let me give an example, an actual example which I did in my PhD. I was trying to calculate the flow on King Fahd Causeway. The flow between two countries is dependent upon the economic condition, the political condition. So God forbid, if conditions in Bahrain deteriorate, economic conditions, political conditions, if they deteriorate, what will happen? People will stop coming. Okay, but is there something to measure the political and economic conditions of the country? Economic conditions, there are many variables. Okay, political conditions, there is no variable. How can you give a number to a political condition of the country? There is unrest in the country, there's conflict in the country. Which variable will you put a number to? Okay, so political condition cannot be estimated in terms of numbers. So what we did, and I have I think 3 papers published on this with this idea. So what we did, we said the stock market index is an indicator of economic condition as well as political condition. Okay, so instead of developing the model between traffic and political condition, why don't we develop the model between traffic and stock market index? Stock market index is readily available. Go to Google and you will find stock market indices, no problem, for Saudi Arabia as well as Bahrain. The stock markets in both countries or in all the countries of the world, they publish their weekly, daily reports. Finding out stock market index is not a problem. Okay, so this is what we mean by the last thing. You are saying the traffic flow depends upon mood of the traveler. How can you measure my mood? There's no variable to measure my mood. Okay, but instead of that, if you say it depends upon my let's say my temperature, for example, temperature can be easily measured. Okay, so the variables which you are putting in the equation as inputs must be something which you can easily project, or must be something which you can easily estimate, or it is available. Okay, something which you can easily estimate or it is already available. Only include those variables as inputs. Okay, otherwise finding out the input variables will be a hectic task as well. Okay, so a very simple example to show which variables we can include in the model, which variables we cannot include in the model. So this is a correlation matrix between y and x1 and x2 and x3 and x4 and between themselves as well. Okay, so you see the first row gives the correlation between y and the other parameters, the second row between x1 and other parameters, third row between x2 and other parameters, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you see the diagonal parameters are all 1 because they are between the variables themselves. So this is between y and y, so this should be 1, right? Highly correlated between x1 and x1 must be 1. Okay, so don't be happy about it. Okay, the diagonal parameters are always 1. The relationship of x1 with x1 is always 1. Okay, so this is not our concern. Okay, can I develop a model between y and x1? Okay, so you see the correlation between y and x1. It is only 0.32. This is considered to be weak. Correlation less than 0.6 is considered to be weak. Less than 0.6 or less than minus 0.6 is considered to be weak. Okay, so 0.32 is a very weak relationship. So if you want to develop a model for y, don't include x1 in that model. Okay, can I include x2? Yes, we can, no problem. Can I include x3? Yes, very high correlation. See, can I include x4? Yes, I can, because still it is 0.62. It's not good as others, but it is still good, valid. Okay, anything 0.6 or more is valid. So in the equation of y, I can have an equation between x and y and x2, y and x3, and y and x4 as well. Okay, which you can see. So these are the 3 simple linear relationships which I can have. 3 simple linear regression relationships which I can have. Okay. Now, can I make multiple linear relationships using multiple x values in the same equation? Can I do that? Let us see. Now, if you are including multiple x values in the same equation, then these x values must not be highly correlated with each other. They must not be highly correlated with each other. Okay, so see, which x values are highly correlated with each other. Now, x1 cannot be part of the model, so we don't have to check this. Okay, because x1 is not correlated with y, so x1 will not come into any equation. Now we have to check x2, x3, and x4. So x2, is x2 highly correlated with x3 and x4? Yes, it is highly correlated with x3. So x2 and x3 cannot come in the same equation. So if you want a multiple linear regression, and you want to include multiple x parameters, you can include x2 and x4, or you can include x3 and x4. Okay, now remember, there is no strong correlation between x3 and x4. See, relationship between x3 and x4 is very weak, and relationship between x2 and x4 is also very weak. Okay, so the only two parameters which have a strong correlation between them is x2 and x3. Other parameters x1, x4, x2, x4, no strong correlation, they can come in the equation together. x2, x4 and x3, again, no strong correlation, they can come in the equation together, no problem. Okay, so either you can have an equation between y, x2 and x4, or y, x3 and x4. There could not be an equation where x2 and x3 are both coming in the equation because they are highly correlated to each other. Okay, so if you want to have multiple linear regression equations, then these are the two only possibilities for this data set, depending upon the correlation matrix. So this example shows you if you have a set of variables and you want to develop a regression equation between y and the x values, you perform a correlation analysis, calculate a correlation matrix like they have done. So go to Excel, calculate the correlation between y and x1, y and x2, y and x3, y and x4. Similarly, calculate the correlation between x1 and x2, x1 and x3, x1 and x4, and so on. Okay, so you will have the correlation between each pair of variables. Okay, and the conditions I've already given you. The correlation between y and the independent variable must be high to come in the equation. If it is not, that variable cannot come in any equation. And the second condition is the correlation between any two independent variables. If it is strong, then one of these two can come. So you can see x2 and x3 correlation was strong, so either include x2 or x3. Both of them cannot come in the same equation. Okay, so correlation analysis can help you decide which variables should come in the equation. Okay, then hypothesis testing. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis meaning a claim. Hypothesis means a claim. So you claim that a parameter value is equal to an estimated value. For example, I say y equals to 1. This is my claim. Okay, so if y equals to 1, then I would say I have fulfilled my null hypothesis. What is null hypothesis? Where you are claiming that a particular variable will be equal to this value. This is null hypothesis. Okay, where you are claiming the value would be equal to this. Okay, then the second step is you formulate an alternative hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis is when null hypothesis is not true. So the parameter is not giving you the claimed value. You were claiming it to be 1, it is not 1. So that is alternative hypothesis. Okay. Then you will select a test statistic. A test statistic. What is a test statistic? You calculate like we did for z value. So you calculate for your model a value which can be checked from a distribution, and those distributions are normally T or F. So like we have normal distribution, exponential, Poisson, we have discussed so many distributions, right? Similarly, we have a T distribution as well as an F distribution. Okay, so you calculate for your model or for your parameter a T value or an F value, and then you check its probability from the standard distribution. So we have a standard T distribution and we have a standard F distribution as well. Okay, now all these steps are part of checking the goodness of fit of the model. Is my model effective in prediction? Is it accurate in prediction or not? Okay, so when you are performing goodness of fit, you will perform these 4 steps. First of all, what are you claiming? Your claim is my model will give me a value equal to the experimental value. Null hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis, my model does not give me value equal to the actual value. Alternative hypothesis. Okay. Third step, for your model, calculate either a T value or a FNF value, and then calculate the probability of this T and F from a table, a standard distribution table. Okay, I'll show you the distribution tables. And if you fulfill your criteria of probability, you will say null hypothesis is true or null hypothesis is wrong. Okay, I know these are heavy things for the time being, but as we move forward in these slides, I think with examples, the concepts will be clear. Okay, for example, you see the example of a single parameter. Null hypothesis B1 equals to this value. This is a particular value. Okay, static means a particular value. So parameter B1, beta 1 equals to this value. Null hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis, beta 1 is not equal to beta 1 static. Okay, a statistic. This is a T statistic. Whenever you are checking a parameter, we use T statistic. If you are checking a model, we use F statistic. Okay, T for one parameter, F for the entire model. Okay, so how do we calculate the T statistic for a parameter? It is beta 1, which is coming from the model, minus beta, the value which you want, upon a standard deviation of beta. S beta 1 is standard deviation of beta. Okay, they also call it a standard error. Standard error, standard deviation means the same thing. Okay, so beta 1, the value of the model, beta 1 static, beta 1 cap, value of the model, beta 1 static, the value you are claiming upon a standard deviation of beta 1. This is a T statistic. Then I have a T table. I will show you. Yeah, this is a table. Okay, I will show it to you later on. So the criteria is if you do this, if you calculate this, okay, and then you go to the table and you calculate the T value from the table, and the value which you have calculated is more than the value of T from the table, then you will say beta 1 is not equal to beta 1 static. Okay, the value of this parameter is more than the value of T from the table, then you would say the value of beta is not equal to beta 1 static. Okay, how to take the value of T from the table, I will explain it in a minute. Okay, so these are the things I said. So N is the sample size, J is coming here, J is the number of parameters, okay, in the equation. For the time being, considered to be 0. For the time being, considered to be 0, no problem. Okay, then I have alpha here, alpha. What is alpha? Alpha is known as the confidence level, the statistical confidence you want in your model. How much, in other words, how much error you are allowing your model to have. That is alpha. Simple. Okay, there's a theory behind it, but I don't want to go into that theory. So I will tell you simple meaning of alpha is error you are allowing in your model. That is alpha. Okay, so 1 minus alpha is your confidence level, the error which you are not allowing. Okay, the complementary of that. Okay, so here you have to put alpha by 2. So if alpha is 5%, that means you are 95% confident about your model, and alpha by 2 will be 2.5%. Okay, the most commonly applied claims, the most commonly applied hypotheses are that beta 1 equals to 0 and beta 1 not equal to 0. Now what is this beta? Beta is the model coefficient A, B, C, these values. We are calculating the values of A, B, and C, right? So betas are normally those values. So we are claiming that beta A equals to 0 or A is not equal to 0, or B is equal to 0 or B is not equal to 0. By A, B, and C, I mean these values. So these are basically different betas. Okay, so I'm testing whether A equals to 0, A is not equal to 0, or B equals to 0, B is not equal to 0, or C equals to 0, C is not equal to 0. Okay, so if any of them is equal to 0, then that term will become 0. Okay, so T statistic is usually applied to calculate the if one particular parameter in the model is equal to 0 or not. Statistically, it is statistically. Okay, let us look at an example. Okay, we have a data of saturation flow. Saturation flow means maximum flow. I'm not going into detail right now. It is part of the traffic engineering. Saturation flow means maximum flow you can have from a facility. Okay. So these are the values which are taken for maximum flow. The recommended value for flow is 1800. Okay, at 95% statistical confidence. Okay, so we want to check at 95% statistical confidence, can the mean value of saturation flow be equal to 1800 or not? This is what we are trying to find out. Okay, and this is the whole concept of t-test. Finding out if the mean value of a parameter equals to the given value or not. So in this case, the given value is 1800, and we are checking for a 95% statistical confidence. So my alpha becomes 5%. I'm allowing 5% error. Okay. So first of all, we will calculate the mean value of the saturation flow rate, which comes out to be 1780. And we will calculate a standard deviation for this data set. Okay. Again, I hope you know how to calculate standard deviation, right? Everybody knows how to calculate standard deviation? Tell me. Do you know how to calculate standard deviation or not? No? Otherwise, I can just write the equation here if you want. Okay. In my culture, silence means yes. Okay. So n is the number of values you have. You can count the values. There are 12 values. Okay. So you calculate the mean, standard deviation. Okay. Now I'll go back to the calculation of t statistic. T statistic is calculated as mean minus the value which you are proposing or value which you are checking, which is 1800. So mean minus 1800 divided by standard deviation, which is 81.2, divided by square root of n. Okay, so these are 12 values, so n is 12. Okay, so this comes out to be 0.85. 0.85. Now I will check it from the t table. Okay. Now to check the t value, I must know two things. First of all, I must know alpha, how much error I'm allowing. So 95% confidence means 5% alpha. Okay, I'm allowing 5% error. So alpha by 2 will be 0.025. Alpha by 2 will be 0.025. So to check the value of t from the table, I need alpha by 2, which is 0.025. Okay, and I need n minus 1. Like I said, for the actual thing was n minus j minus 1. But for one parameter, we consider j to be 0. Okay, so we are not considering the value of j for the time being. Okay, so j is 0 for the time being. So n minus 1 simply 12 minus 1 is 11. Okay, now I'll go to the t table. This is a t table. Okay, so the probability is on the top row. The probability which you are trying to find out is on the top row, and the degrees of freedom. Degree of freedom is basically this value, 12 minus 1. Okay, so the alpha by 2 is considered the probability, and the other parameter n minus j minus 1, okay, is the degrees of freedom. So 12 minus 1 means 11. So degrees of freedom df is basically 11 here. So 11 from here. Okay, and then from the top row, I'm looking for alpha of 2.5%, so 0.025 here. Okay, so 11 from here, so this row and this column. So the value of t is 2.20, okay, or 2.19, 2.20 is an approximate value. Okay, so the exact value was 2.19. Okay, so the t statistic which you have calculated is less than the t which you are getting from the table. Okay, so this means that your null hypothesis is true. Okay, whenever the t statistic calculated is less than the t from the table, that means null hypothesis is true. So the mean is almost equal to 1800. The saturation flow rate is almost or statistically equal to 1800. Okay. So whenever this is true, then you reject null hypothesis. But in our case, it was the other way around. The value which you calculated is less than the t from the table. That means null hypothesis is true. The mean is almost or is statistically equal to 1800. So saturation flow rate is almost, mean saturation flow rate is almost 1800. Okay. So in the coming example, there are just a few slides left in this particular topic. So inshallah, we'll cover it next time. Do you have any questions or any problems or queries? Please go ahead. So one thing which I said in the previous class as well, in your book, there are many problems given at the end of the chapter. Okay. And this is why I've selected the book. So there are many examples in the book. If you go even for this example, which I've just solved, there is some explanation given. So if you think my explanation was not sufficient, or is not satisfactory, then you can go to the book and you can read the author's explanation. Maybe it will help you to understand better. Okay. And you can also try the problems which are given at the end of the chapter. If you have any problem, you can send it to me and I can check it for you whether you did it correct or not. Okay. If you have any questions right now, please go ahead. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you. See you inshallah next week. Have a good week and all the best. And do send me the thing for the term project. Okay. Assalamu alaikum.